Welcome to lesson 7.10, where we're going to continue to be adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. To start out with, here is your joke. Why didn't the two fours want any dinner? Why didn't the two fours want any dinner? Because they already ate. We're going to get started here with some math reflexes where we're going to rename the following fractions as both decimals and percents. If you want to pause it to try to work out some of these problems on your own, that would be a great idea. Starting out with tenths, 3 tenths. Remember, it's always easier if we get our fractions into hundreds when we're thinking about percents, or tens when we're thinking about decimals. 3 tenths, decimal 3. Okay, so that's the tenth place value. Looking at percent, if we made it out of 100, how do we go 10 to 100? We multiply by 10, so we have to do that with our numerator to get 30. Whenever it's out of 100, we can get our percent by just saying 30%. Taking a look at 4/5, easiest if we get it out of tenths, which would be renamed as 8 tenths, which would be looking like that, which would be 80%. 3/4, it's kind of one of those ones that you kind of just need to know, or you can think about quarters. If I had 3/4, I would have 75 cents. And if that's out of 100, 75%. Looking at a couple more examples, we're going to go ahead and get started with 2/3. Once again, these are the ones that you're going to just kind of need to know and remember. 2/3 we should always know is 0.66, or they might say 66 and 2/3 because it's going to be 666 repeating over and over, and 6 is 2/3 of a 10, which is equal to 66%. 3/8 is once again one of those things that you need to know. You can either just know it, or you could actually work out the problem with division. Remembering 3 divided by 8, our decimal is here, and we can add our zeros, and you can work out that problem in that fashion. Or we can know that 3/8 is equal to decimal 375, or 375 thousandths. Taking a look at percent, 37.5%. 1/8. If you already know 3/8, you could figure out 1/8 by dividing it by 3. Or if you know 1/8, and that 1/8 is equal to 125 thousandths, you can easily go to 3/8, because you're just adding 125 thousandths, 125 thousandths, and another 125 thousandths to get 375. Once we see that it is 125 thousandths, though, we know that we can move the decimal in twice to get 12.5%. All right, looking at a couple more examples. 47/50, we need to get it out of 100, which is going to be 94, because 50 times 2 is 100, and 47 times 2 is 94. 94 hundredths will look like that, and 94 out of 100, which is 94%. Going from 6/25 to 100s, thinking about quarters. There are 4 quarters in a dollar. Quarters are 25 cents. So multiply the denominator and the numerator by 4, getting a top number of 24. 24 hundredths, 24%. Last example, looking at 7/20. Get out of 100, skip count to 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. So we did that 5 times. 7 times 5 is 35. And we have 35 hundredths and 35%. All right, our math message. We're going to want to take a look at problems 1 through 3 on your math journal, which is going to be on 242 today. All right. the lesson really wanted us today to take a look and use a slide ruler to be able to add and subtract positive and negative numbers. In theory, it's really nice, but when will you really have a slide ruler other than in your everyday math in 5th grade? So we were really emphasizing the fact of the rules that we have learned in the last couple lessons to help you. And today's going to be a review of the last 2 days. I strongly suggest, if you're really still struggling with adding or the subtracting, that you re-watch those tutorials that I have done, or take a look at those extra support videos that are on my website as well. But we're going to take a look at a few examples right here. So -3 plus a -6. Now we're adding, okay, so we need to look at our signs. If they're both the same, we just simply add it and keep the sign that is there. Well, that is our case. So we're going to go 6 plus 3, which is 9. And since they both share the negative, our answer is going to be -9. Looking at another example, we have 5 plus 4. They're both positive, so we're just going to add them and keep our sign, and it was a +9. Looking at the next example, -5 plus a -4. They both are negatives, so we just go ahead and add them and then keep the sign the same. I'm going to do a couple of other problems as we go here, reviewing -3 minus 6. Remember, whenever we are subtracting, we always want to make it positive, and once we make it from subtraction to addition, we're always going to do the opposite. So it was a +6, now we're going to make it negative. Now we got to remember back to our adding rules. We have two negative numbers, a -3 and a -6, so we're just going to go ahead and add them to get 9, and we're going to keep the sign the same. In another example, if I had 3 and we are taking away or subtracting a -6, we want to change the subtraction to addition, but as we do that, we also need to change the following sign, the sign behind it. We will never change this first number of 3. We will only change the second number. All right, so we are adding, and we have a +6 and a +3. So we need to just go ahead and add them to get 9 and keep the sign that they both had, which was a +9. Looking at one more example, let's see, 4 minus, let's go 5. Okay, once again, we're going to change that subtraction to addition. It was a +5, now we're making it negative. Now we're adding a positive and a negative. Whenever we're adding a positive and a negative number, we actually are going to subtract them. So 5 minus 4 is 1, and we take the sign of the number that is larger. And 5 is going to be larger than 4, and it was a negative sign, so we're going to keep that negative there. We have a few more examples here that I would like you to pause the video and try to work out these problems so that you are ready and prepared to go for the math journal pages. So go ahead and pause, and then we'll get started with the answers. All right, if we're going to take a look at the first example, -2 minus 6, we are subtracting, and so remember we always change subtraction to addition. And when we change that, we have to change the following number, the number after it, to the opposite of what it was. So it was +6, so now we will make it -6. Going to our adding rules, when we are adding numbers that are the same of positives or negatives, and here we have both are negative, we're going to keep our answer negative and just add 6 plus 2, which is 8. Taking a look at the next example, we're already adding, so we need to see we have a negative and we have a positive. There's no negative in front of it, so that means we need to subtract our numbers. 5 minus 3, which is 2, and we have to take the sign of the larger number. 5 is larger than 3, so it's going to be negative 2. One more example here. We have 4 plus a negative 7. We are adding a positive and a negative, so that tells us to subtract once again. So 7 minus 4 to get 3, and we're going to take the sign of the larger one, which is 7, and so it was negative, so our answer will be negative 3. Negative 5 plus negative 3. Our signs are both going to be negative, so that means we just need to add them as normal. 5 plus 3 is 8, and since they are both negative, we're going to continue them to be negative. Looking at another subtraction, we have 2 minus a negative 7. Remember, whenever we subtract, we add the opposite. Now we're just adding 2 plus 7, which is 9. And looking at another example, the final example, negative 3 minus negative 4, we're subtracting, so we need to add the opposite. Now we are adding a negative and a positive number, which in our rules tells us that we actually need to subtract them. 4 minus 3 is 1, and we take the value or the sign of the larger number. 4 is bigger than 3, so we're going to take the sign, and it is a positive, so our answer is just 1. All right, you have reviewed adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. Now it's time that you can work on your notes or work on your math journal, and I look forward to meeting with you.